Hi, I'm Catherine Comden, Behavior Program Manager at Willamette Humane Society in Salem, Oregon. There's no question that puppies are cute no matter what breed or what mix of breeds they include. But are all puppies equal? Do you believe that genetics matter or not? Today on the show, you'll meet Deb Pierce and her beautiful golden retrievers, and we'll be discussing ethical breeding practices, what to look for if you choose to purchase a purebred dog, and how to tell if the breeder is producing puppy mill dogs or not. How can animal welfare organizations and ethical dog breeders work together to improve the lives of dogs and their families? I hope you can join us on this week's Pets and People. Well, Deb, thank you for coming on the show with your beautiful boys. We all care about the dogs, so let's introduce them first, and then we'll back up and talk a little bit about who you are and your background. How's that?
Okay, good.
So who have I got here?
That's Cash, Riverdance Run for the Money. He's 8.5 years old, and I got him as a puppy from Canada, so he has dual citizenship.
Oh, very nice. Very important in these tumultuous days.
Yes, exactly. And this is his son, Keen. Wild Mountain Eager to Run is his registered name, and he's almost a year old. He'll be a year old next week, so he's still kind of a wiggly child.
Okay, he's doing great. Well, these are just gorgeous dogs, and these are not your first dogs.
No.
You've been active in dogs since you were a kid. Give us a little bit of Deb's story.
Okay, the abridged version is I was raised on a farm, so I have had dogs and horses my whole life and various other animals. Keen. Good boy. I had a lot of dogs in 4-H, raised them in 4-H throughout the years. And then when I got married, my husband and I started raising dogs for guide dogs for the blind. So as of this point, we've raised 21 pups for guide dogs for the blind. All golden retrievers except one lab golden cross who squeezed in there. So I was raising these Goldens, and more I was getting concerned with the dogs that were losing to cancer, not just mine, but other golden retrievers. It was a serious problem. And we lost our first two to cancer that were both career changes of guide dogs that were then became our pets. So I said, I can't do this anymore. I'm getting out of golden retrievers. But I love this breed. They're just everything I want. I'll never not have a golden. So I went looking for my own golden retriever and went looking for a dog that came from lines with longevity and health. So after a lot of help from people, searching of pedigrees, talking to people in the guide dog world also, in the golden retriever world, I found Allison Fennell at Riverdance Kennels in Langley, BC. And she had a litter of Goldens. The father was an American golden, and the bitch was from Canada. And I just really liked everything about it. So I went up and picked out a boy. And interestingly, he was not first pick in the litter. He was fourth pick boy. So picked him out and brought him home and thought, yay, I have my new performance dog now. I'm going to do agility and nose work and commercials, that kind of thing with him. But as I raised him, I realized his personality was exactly what guide dogs and service dogs want. He's a wonderfully confident dog, but he has an off switch, which, here's his off switch.
Right.
You seem to have both of the boys right now.
It's okay.
So I offered him to guide dogs. I said, if you're interested, we will start his clearances, and once he passes all his clearances, I'd be willing to donate a breeding to guide dogs. So long story short, that's where it started, and he now has pups in 8 different service organizations. As well as pet puppies and performance puppies and just all around golden retrievers. So that's how I got into breeding.
Right, so he's the first dog that you selected to breed.
Yes.
Out of all the pet dogs and all of the dogs you've had your hands on over the years.
Right.
So that's really interesting because there are people who will get a dog And they'll say, oh, he's just lovely, I'm going to breed him so that I can have dogs just like him.
Right.
But breeding one dog does not produce a carbon copy by
Heavens,
any
no.
stretch of the imagination. So so how do you make that selection? How do you say a particular dog is worth breeding or is a great representative of the breed? Like who do you go to kind of help you make those decisions?
Well, you start with the ancestors. You look back in pedigrees, you do your homework, you ask people. You can have one amazing animal, but when you look back at the pedigree, here's some that have had issues with insecurity, some with cancer, various different things. And just because this animal is great, you gotta look at the odds. What are the odds that he's gonna pass on that or she's gonna pass on that quality? So with him, the whole litter was nice, but really his father, his name's River, and he's from Colorado, is a very, very well-known sire and has lots and lots of offspring that are nice. Then you start your clearances because a dog is only as good as his genetics or her genetics. So Cash has had over 8 different clearances. He's been DNA tested for eye exams, as there's a skin disease golden retrievers can get called ichthyosis, which now you can do DNA testing on that. He's had DNA testing on every possible disease or condition that Goldens are known for. There's some others where they don't have DNA testing yet. He gets yearly eye tests called SURF exams. There's a horrible, horrible eye disease that golden retrievers have called pigmentary uveitis. There's no genetic test for it yet. So all you can do is test them, and he will be tested every year for as long as he lives, even after he's done breeding. As many as possible of his offspring also have that test yearly.
So you have a really good idea of what he's producing genetically because you're able then to look at the progeny and find out how they're growing up, how they're maturing, and you said that he has participated in providing dogs for a number, eight different service dog organizations. So that includes guide dogs and service dogs for mobility and service dogs
PTSD
and autism. And I mean, that's just an amazing genetic package because those kinds of working dogs are very different from the performance dogs that we generally see, who are a little higher strung, a little more drive, a little less off switch. Case in point, this lovely little youngster here who his mother comes from more of the performance lines.
Yes.
And so that temperament also carries through genetically, which I think people don't really think about that much.
No, I don't think
because
they do.
it would be inappropriate for us to talk about how our genetics influence our behavior, right? So it's a hard topic to say then
But
that the dogs...
who doesn't look at their child and say, oh, you're just like your dad? Or,
Right.
I mean, you know what?
Right? You see mannerisms that come
Yes.
across generation to generation.
Yeah.
And so we can definitely see it because we get to enjoy so many dogs in our lifetime because unfortunately they don't live as long as we'd like them to. So how many puppies has he sired?
About between 140 and 150.
Okay, which is a lot of puppies. And you think, oh gosh, our shelters are so full. Aren't we just, producing too many dogs? But the puppies that he is being bred to produce have specific work intended for them, for which we need specific dogs. So the service dog organizations need a particular kind of health and temperament in order to go. And it's difficult, but we don't often see that kind of a health and temperament package coming through the shelter. It can be a very different dog that's showing up, even among, if I get a purebred golden retriever in, it's not going to be coming from a dog that has Cash's background.
Hopefully.
Yeah, and yet if it did, we would be contacting rescue. A favorite phrase that we like to say is, if you breed, rescue.
Exactly.
And so let's talk a little bit about that, how an ethical breeder would be involved in saving dogs who are their chosen breed, who might end up in a welfare organization of some kind.
Well, first of all, I feel very strongly that any ethical breeder is responsible for any pup that's produced by them for its entire life. Its entire life. And I mean, if someone calls and says, she's 12 years old, we're moving, we don't know what to do, they will not necessarily take it back, but they will find a place for it. That's part of being an ethical breeder. You're bringing these things into the world, and guide dogs has said that right from the beginning. Once in a while, a guide dog career change, which is the ones that don't make it, or even a retired guide, has showed up in a shelter through some odd way, and they, no questions asked, they take it back.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
And I think that's how it should be for all ethical breeders.
Exactly. Yeah, if there's, I mean, there has to be a lifetime commitment, and that's kind of the message that I had hoped that you would bring is that there are ethical breeders producing fantastic dogs who care very deeply that the dogs end up in the places where they need to be and where they're going to be a blessing to the people. So how does the common person who says, gee, those dogs that I saw on that television show are fantastic, I think I want a German Shepherd who's that well bred, or a Cavalier King Charles Spaniel who's that well bred. If we're just surfing the internet and we're looking for purebred puppies, are there any tips that you can share on how do I screen for an ethical breeder if all I have is a website? What sorts of things should I be looking for?
Well, first of all, your homework should begin well before you're looking for a puppy. You should talk to breeders or people who have them and say, what are their health issues? Von Willebrand's disease, pigmentary uveitis, what are my red flags for this breed that I'm interested in? So that when you talk to someone, you can say, can you show me the history, the pedigree, and have any of these things shown up in the pedigree? It used to be when I was growing up, well before the internet, well before the wheel was invented, you always were told to go see the mother and father, go see the sire and dam. Well, the world has changed, and that's not always possible. I did meet Keen's mother when she came to visit Cash to be bred, but not everyone necessarily does in this day and age. But also with the internet, you can see video and you can see them where they live and see other offspring, video of other offspring, that sort of thing. Just ask me. I'm happy to show you pictures of my dog at any time. I'm happy to show you the pedigree and the DNA clearances. I can give you his canine data website that has all of his clearances on it. And that's the homework that you need to do before you ever go and look at these adorable German Shepherd puppies where you're going to have a hard time going home without one.
Right, yeah. A lot of people are caught up very much in how a particular dog looks, and one thing that we try to do at the shelter is help people look behind what they see.
Right.
And
look under the hood.
Look under the hood and try to imagine what that dog's going to look like fully grown.
Yeah.
And also to make sure that you only have tan clothing. No. And right, make sure you were smart and I was not, but making sure that your lifestyle is really set up for that dog, so that when they come to maturity, they are still the dog that you want instead of just an impulse purchase because they were cute. Are there things then? So we're going to do our homework. We're going to look past the pictures and photos on the interwebs, and we're going to look for health clearances. When we get to the point of contacting a breeder, are there some basic questions that we can ask of a breeder to know sort of where we're headed with that particular breeding? Because even if they're breeding a particular dog, like Cash is a lovely example of a great stud dog, but you breed him to two different females, you're likely to end up with two very different litters of puppies.
That's exactly right.
And so what kinds of questions should we be asking?
Well, first of all, I think critical to a puppy, say you've decided on a litter, is what socialization have the puppies had. There's many super dog, there's several different things that stimulate the puppies from the day they're born, and that can make a huge difference. I have to say that Keen's breeder is a wonderful woman down in California that dedicated her life to this litter, and he's not afraid of anything. You can notice he has higher energy than his dad. I bred for that. I mean, I wanted that. That's why I chose him from this litter. I love Cash dearly, but I like to do active sports like agility, and he does it. But I wanted a little more zing. Well, I got a little more zing. So you would ask about that. Why did you breed this litter? What were you looking for? Certainly look at size. I love Cash, but holy cow, I need a horse trailer to drive him around.
Right.
And in retrospect, I might have gone for a litter that had ultimately not such large dogs.
Right.
It's okay, I love him.
Right.
And now I've got another one that's probably going to be as big.
Right.
But what you really want is testimony. I want to talk to people that have gotten pups from you before.
There you go. Yeah.
And so Anne only has bred 3 litters, which I think is great. I talked to people who had pups from her other litters. I talked to the people who had the sire of her other litters, all that kind of thing. You cannot get too much information. Another red flag for me is when they say, I'm just going to choose your puppy and mail it to you.
Right, or meet you at the truck stop with your
Yes.
puppy in the back, and it's no
Yeah.
problem. We do this,
All the time.
Yeah, or this is the only puppy left.
Right. Now, on the other hand, I have to be a little careful of that because no one knows this litter better than the owner of the litter.
Right.
And so if you go there and they say, we understand you filled out this huge form, which they should, they have to vet you as well as you vetting them, and they say, boy, your lifestyle looks like you might want a smaller female, not so active, and here's the 2 for you to pick from.
I see.
That is not unreasonable.
Right.
Because I know you get there and you think, that one.
Right.
Or the shy one, I want the shy one. And they're like, no, you don't.
No, you don't, not really.
Listen to your breeder.
Yeah, for sure. I remember when I went and picked out my Australian Shepherd from her breeder, and I had a very specific dog in mind. I knew what I wanted, and Australian Shepherds come in lots of colors, and this particular litter had every color under the sun available. I was lucky in that color didn't matter to me. I really didn't care what color she was, but I had very specific things in mind. And when I got there, the breeder said, well, I think that this puppy right here is the puppy for you. And me being me, I said, well, we'll see about that, won't we? Because I need to test all these puppies myself because I know a lot. I've had my hands on a lot of dogs, and I've done a lot of guide dog puppy raising. I've done a lot of selecting dogs for service dog programs, and I know how to look at a puppy. And it was really kind of humorous to me when I got to the point of selecting a puppy, and I went, oh yeah, she's right.
It is.
She's right. That's exactly the puppy that I needed and wanted. And yes, it is, because they're the ones spending, an ethical breeder with puppies on the ground does very little else.
Right. That's pretty much your full-time job.
Yeah.
And the same thing happened to me. He was picked male from the litter. I got him in exchange for the breeding. And I kept saying to Anne, which one's mine? She says, I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to tell you. And when I went down there and looked at the puppies, I said, oh, it's clearly, I said, I want a bold, confident dog, and I don't care if he's intelligently disobedient because I can work with that.
I can work with that.
And I said, oh, it's the orange boy. She goes, yeah, I know. She says, it was the orange boy.
All along.
All along.
That's funny. Yeah.
So trust your breeder. If you can't trust your breeder,
find another
breeder
you can
yes,
trust.
Exactly.
For sure. Exactly.
Exactly.
You put a lot of care into selecting your purpose-bred puppy for the purpose you intended, and the breeders that you have worked with Cash's progeny all have very specific things in mind. And I wonder how many of them are also participating in the Golden Retriever National Breed Club, or are they involved in those
Yes.
national interests for the breed?
Very much. They, our local club is Pacific Rim.
He's ready to go.
He's ready to go.
He says, I know you have treats.
That's right.
Let's do the
Okay,
things.
we'll give you guys a treat because you're being very good. Sit. Good.
There we go.
Pacific Rim Golden Retriever Club is our local club, and then National Golden Retriever, Golden Retrievers of America. And breeders are involved in those clubs. In fact, he had a recent litter that came from the lady who, if you're interested in a Golden Retriever, you can contact the club and they will refer you to this woman.
Okay.
And she knows what litters are happening and who's having them and
Sort of what they're bred for, what their ancestry is, and all the things.
And they're reliable people that, she knows and other people know, so it's not just someone you picked.
So a reliable breeder is going to be involved in the AKC breed clubs, or
Yes.
in local and broader than local rescue groups.
Yes.
Making sure that they're also contributing to that end.
Right. So our local Golden Retriever rescue group is called Golden Bond, and great organization.
Yeah, we partner with them.
Do you?
We absolutely do, and we have dogs that come through who need a placement, and they've been very generous to take not just golden retrievers.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
It's a great group of people, and I hope someday to foster for them. And of course, as you know, the beauty is a dog in a kennel run is not the same as a dog who's been fostered.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
And they're very good at saying, here, they like kids, they don't like cats, whatever, same as you guys do.
Right.
So that's the beauty of the rescue organization.
Right.
And a lot of breeders do foster dogs. I'm not really set up for it right now, but someday I hope I can.
Yeah, for sure.
Help.
So we're looking at too, trying to, as a humane society, we want to facilitate relationships for animal welfare and for the community, in developing and producing dogs that are the kinds of pets we want in our homes. And so I would love to be able to connect with breeders who are doing it right, more breeders. And so from your perspective as a breeder, how do we begin that conversation? How do we start to, there's a lot of people who either say, well, if you're breeding dogs, you're just filling the shelters. And so I want to break down that wall and talk about how...
We want to break it down too.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually gotten to the point where I hesitate to say that I breed because I'm afraid.
Right.
I'm afraid of what people say or what they think. And then I decided, no, I'm not. I'm proud of what we do.
Right.
We're making this breed better. They're living longer. We're solving problems.
Right.
Doing DNA testing on dogs that is also helping humans.
Right.
That sort of thing. So I do think a connection between local shelters, rescue groups, and breeders is very important. And I'm not exactly sure how. I think you're already doing it.
We're trying.
And one thing that you're doing that I was thinking about this that I really like is you offer classes and that sort of thing for people. So I'm kind of a breeder, but I'm kind of not, in that I don't have females. I have a stud dog. But I do know that most breeders, certainly his breeder, part of the contract that I had to sign was that he would go to some sort of an obedience class or something, and you offer those classes. So right there is a link.
Right.
So people with...
and we offer puppy classes. There's a message I would love to get out, because how important is that? He says, yeah, let's talk about all the things. So yeah, being able to be that kind of a resource where those first few months, we've talked a little bit about genetics, but you and I both know as guide dog puppy raisers that those first few months really make all the difference in setting those puppies up for success. And so I would love to network with more breeders to let them know that we offer these incredible puppy classes that aren't just basic obedience. It's way more than that.
Just for people that got their dogs at the shelter.
We do have a training facility and group classes for basic obedience and the puppies, and getting them off to a good start as in a puppy home is not just for shelter dogs. In fact, most of the puppies that come to puppy class, interestingly, are coming as purebred dogs purchased elsewhere, which I think is a really interesting phenomenon. I almost would like to have more people know about getting their mixed breed dogs or whatever their dog through more training, because as you mentioned, the overall goal and the common goal, I think, is keeping dogs in the homes that are their original homes. If we can do that, we're going to solve the perceived overpopulation problem. We're going to solve the problem. We're going to have the dogs in the original homes. We're not going to be needing rescue groups, because all the dogs are going to stay in their homes. Because they're going to all be so well trained.
And to be honest, a lot of people used to not want to take their puppies to the shelter, but you're not that shelter anymore.
Right.
And I think that message needs to get spread by breeders and rescue groups and stuff. You're a training facility.
Yeah, we are.
And a great resource for ornery puppies.
we do have classes, and I know someone.
I'm thinking we might sign up.
We're joking, because you with your dogs have done so much in the community and with performance and commercials and performances with television. You're part of the OK Go video, which is happened way back when we met. I can remember seeing that video and going, oh my goodness, I know this person. It was very exciting. He says, I'm ready to get going. It's time. And he's right. We are just about out of time. So I guess we'll have to say goodbye to Cash and Keen. And thank you, Deb, so much for your time coming on the show today and helping to educate us about finding a purebred dog and how to make a good choice. That genetics does matter. When you've got a purpose-bred dog in mind, it's important to find that quality. And if you're looking for a pet companion, we'd be happy to help you down at the shelter as well. We have a number of great dogs waiting there for their forever homes, and they're there for lots of different reasons. Some of them are purebred, which is really interesting to me. We do get a number of purebred dogs in that have arrived for one reason or another, and all of them deserve to have a great home. And so thank you again for coming on the show, and I hope to see all of you down at Willamette Humane Society on Turner Road in Salem, where you just might meet your next #1 fan.
Ready? Go. Yeah, sounds like that. Great. As soon as she goes perfect. And then she just needs to so bite too.
Hi, buddy. Hi, honey.